Hi guys, in this video we're going to be taking another look at Cardano. We've got a few things that are quite interesting to talk about, so as we get into it, if you find it useful, do go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate that. And of course, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. By subscribing, you'll be kept up to date with everything that we do here. Make sure you hit the bell, tap on all notifications, and you won't miss a single thing, right? With that said, let's get into what is going on here with Cardano. So before we actually get into the charts, just kind of want to bring this piece up, which is quite an interesting piece of news around Cardano that could be absolutely massive for price discovery going further forward into this cycle. And, basically, Q3 and Q4 of 2021. So what's going on here? Well, the world's largest crypto asset management firm launching support for Cardano. And again, this is something that we've spoken about a few months ago where we saw trusts being set up. But basically, Grayscale, the world's largest crypto asset management firm, is adding Cardano ADA to its suite of investment products. And the firm says it's adding ADA to Grayscale's digital large cap fund, which offers retail and institutional investors exposure to a basket of altcoins. So this is absolutely fantastic news. Again, this is something that's been speculated about for a while since we started to see lots of these trust accounts being set up. And obviously now we've had it confirmed that basically Cardano ADA is going to be added to that large cap fund. Now, this is huge. Obviously, we take a breakdown of as of the 1st of July. Basically 67.47% is Bitcoin, 25% being Ethereum, and 4.26 is going to be ADA. Now, obviously, Grayscale dropped XRP just shortly after the XRP SEC lawsuit, and I imagine that XRP will eventually get added back in to this fund at some point in the future once that lawsuit gets settled out, and as long as it's not a security, which I don't think it will be. So I think ultimately that's going to be settled out, and then we'll see XRP back in this. But for now, we can see that actually Cardano ADA has a pretty decent chunk, but I think this is going to change quite a bit in due course. I think you're going to start seeing maybe a shift away from Bitcoin, maybe into ETH and into Cardano, and I think ultimately Cardano and ETH will have a bit of a head-to-head battle within this large cap fund. So I think for now, obviously you can see the two big boys at the top there with 67% and 25%. 4% is still a healthy chunk for Cardano, but I do think that's going to likely increase as we approach Goguen, basically have those smart contracts, Yella, Marlow, all that functionality, and all these potential businesses porting over from Ethereum to Cardano is going to have a huge impact on this fund, as well as some of these absolute beast projects that are looking to launch on the Cardano ecosystem. And for all you members out there, you'll know a few of these that Chris has been talking about recently. If you're not a member, do head over, check out the channel's membership section, and you'll find a lot of content around what is launching on the Cardano ecosystem and some of the fantastic things that are coming on there. Now, with about less than 1% of the fund is allocated to Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Chainlink. And obviously XRP, as I just mentioned, was dropped earlier in the year. Now, I think this is fantastic news for Cardano. I think that's going to do incredibly well, and I think it's going to grow much further beyond that 4%. So it's just worth kind of being aware of what's happening, and specifically around the institutional level adoption of Cardano as amongst many of these other crypto assets. And this is fantastic news for price discovery in the later part of this year. So let's get into the charts though. Let's talk about the price action of ADA. Obviously today's a green day. Again, this is something that we were talking about, that it had to be green if it was to keep in line with the schematics of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's been following a work-off accumulation pattern. And you could argue, whether or not we're in phase B or phase C, didn't really matter. We had to have a green day today, otherwise the whole thing was going to be invalidated. So a green day is what we saw with Bitcoin, which as a result means that the altcoins are also in the green, and some of them have actually had some pretty good price recovery and some pretty decent moves, and ADA's definitely had a pretty good day. So let's get into this and see exactly what is going on. As we kind of just spoke about briefly there with Grayscale adopting and basically adding ADA into that large cap fund, that does mean that potentially our fifth wave could extend above and beyond our current price prediction here of $7.20 to $10. We could see $15, $20 depending on any additional fundamental shifts in the space. Obviously, this technical data only looks at the existing fundamental infrastructure and how things have been playing over the last little while. Obviously, with Cardano, it's an evolving ecosystem that's just getting started, and as a result of that, we could see this price, eclipse what we're seeing here in terms of what the technicals are suggesting those upper limits could be. So one to kind of just scope out and make sure that we are aware that what we're saying here is the technicals are suggesting $7.20. I think that might, from there even push to 10. But above and beyond that, with the smart contract functionality, with businesses porting from Ethereum to Cardano, with the scalability of Hydra around the corner, and of course, with those absolute beast of projects launching on the Cardano ecosystem, it could take the price so much higher. So it's as well worth paying attention to what the technicals are saying at this point and seeing how they shift with those new fundamentals as they get launched. So let's jump down into our weekly chart, our daily chart from our weekly. And here we can see that we had this upward trend, and this is still intact. There was a wick that actually proceeded to drop down below. We kept this in place, and I'll get into that hourly view, which show you exactly what's going on with that upward trend line and why this is crucial. And again, we've come across that first stumbling block, that first bit of resistance. And again, we were talking about this on the live stream yesterday. Nothing here is unusual. And when we take a look at this daily chart, we can obviously see the Fibonacci in a bit more detail, but we can also see that relative strength index. It's actually about 50, so just the midway point with plenty of room to grow to the upside. Now, obviously, the key here is going to see some good volume. Now, the problem that you have on this daily chart is even though we've been pushing this price to the upside, we have seen the volume actually decrease. So again, that sentiment in the market is still very fearful, generally speaking. Now, obviously, Cardano hasn't been as susceptible to the fear as many of these other projects have been. With that being said, you can still see here that there are fewer participants in the buying activity and more involved in the selling activity, at least specifically from a volume point of view. There's more volume going through as selling rather than buying. With this being said, this is something that you usually tend to see when the price is being deliberately kept low, as in institutions, they don't buy up everything in one go and make the needle move all the way to the upside. Instead, they gradually buy it, wait for the price to fall back down and buy a little bit more, and they rinse, repeat. And they do this until they've accumulated enough. And obviously, as we are following Bitcoin's Wyckoff accumulation pattern at the moment, this is in line with what we're also seeing here for Cardano. Cardano is also following a very similar schematic. And as a result, you can kind of see why these volumes are so low and are basically being kept. And again, the ADA price is being kept as low as it has been. With that being said, I still think we're going to see some interesting breakthrough events before potentially having some rugs pulled. And this is why, if anyone was following my previous videos, we were talking about potentially pushing the price of ADA up towards that 170 range before potentially pulling all the way back down to maybe $1.12. And this is in line with our expectations of where we are from a phase B Wyckoff accumulation pattern. Now, if that is the case, obviously it's well worth being aware of what to expect on that journey. But obviously, if you're a trader and you're looking to basically capitalize on this, you should know where we are in that cycle and where things are likely to have pullbacks and potentially push to the upside. So again, it's useful information from that regard. Now let's jump down into our hourly, and this is where we can start to see some of those real resistance lines and support lines and where they kind of form. Obviously, this is our upward trend line that we spoke about previously, right? This was a clear upward trend that we had here, and it formed a bit of a triangular wedge. This triangular wedge just in here was the area that we were looking for this break to the upside. With that being said, we actually had a breakdown event here, and this particular breakdown event actually then retested this previous support line as a new resistance line. Again, we had that break through to the upside, but we didn't just stay inside our triangular wedge. We broke through there, turned the $1.35 area into a support line, and then we found that upper resistance. This is where we were last night on our live stream, and then obviously we had the pullback from here. So $1.40 was that resistance line that we found. We pulled back, secondary testing of the 135 range, and then the breakthrough today. Again, this is now up at that $1.45 area, okay, and again we're looking to back test and test the $1.40 area as a new support line. Now obviously we are quite high on our relative strength index, so very important that we're aware of what this looks like, okay, because ultimately we are looking to basically come all the way back down into this area here, retesting. Let me just delete this off the chart for a second. We're looking to basically retest our previous area just here as our, let me just get the right one. There we go. So what we're looking to do is basically just test our $1.40 and test to make sure that that is now support rather than resistance. So where we have had a couple of attempts here to push through, a back test is usually something that we see and something that we should be comfortable with. And the reason that this is super important, guys, is we can see that the volume's already decreased, right? So we're stabilizing right here, which is fantastic. We had good volume coming to the upside. So on this hourly chart, this is exactly what we want to see, but on the daily chart, right? So the daily chart shows decrease decrease in volume, and we're looking for a shift in that sentiment. We want something different, and that's what we're seeing here on this hourly chart during this weekend. So we have good volume coming in, pushing the price to the upside, and then what we're looking to do is actually test this area here, this $1.40 as a support line. In order to do that, we want to basically lower our volume, and we want to lower our relative strength index so that we can have a break to the upside. Our major resistance is really coming in at $1.40. So again, that's where we're going to find the majority of the resistance for us, and that's where we'll probably have a bit more of a pullback than we've seen currently for Cardano's ADA. But with that being said, there are triangular wedges forming everywhere according to our trend line. So if I go ahead and just pull this up to the upside here, again, we can see that there was a triangular wedge just here. There's a new triangular wedge just in here. And again, there would be a triangular wedge in here, all along these resistance and support lines on our journey to the upside. So again, when we use our trend lines in conjunction with support and resistance, we're able to find a good area where we can see, okay, the relative strength index is too high. We're likely to actually have a breakdown from this triangular wedge, or whether or not we've actually had a good correction on RSI and good volume corrections that actually mean that we're likely to have a break to the upside, something that we saw over at this side over here. So for now, Cardano on the short time frames are actually looking very, very comfortable. And again, I think a lot of this is on the back of Bitcoin pushing its price to the upside, and again in line with the expectations of that Wyckoff accumulation, coupled with some of those fantastic things that are happening fundamentally inside the space, all around Grayscale, the large cap fund, all the way through to Goguen and Alonzo testnet, Alonzo hard fork combinator on the mainnet due by the end of July, beginning of August. There's so much going on for Cardano right now, let alone all of the fantastic projects that we talk about in the member section, all around those fantastic beasts of projects that are launching as soon as that smart contract functionality rolls out. This is some really interesting stuff now going on with Cardano, that the recovery here is going to be pretty slick and pretty fast, I feel. But we obviously do need to see Bitcoin move through phase C of the Wyckoff accumulation. Once we're past phase C, the rest of everything on many of these altcoins should actually start to see significant recovery to the upside. So again, we're just going to hold steady, hold hard and fast, and ultimately what we're looking for are opportunities to dollar cost average a little bit more where possible on that journey to the upside. And when we get past our key area here of $1.83, that's where we'll be basically pretty comfortable with basically pushing to the upside long term. So guys, hopefully you found this kind of brief update on Cardano useful and informative. If you have, hit that like button. I do appreciate that. And of course, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here. It is free. You'll stay well informed. So why not? With that said, done and out of the way, guys, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.